Good morning. The first item of business is general questions, and at question number 1 I call Michelle Thompson.
To ask the Scottish Government how the additional £34 million allocated to culture and heritage in its draft budget will assist in the preservation of any small yet key Scottish heritage sites under threat of closure, such as Kinneil Museum in the Falkirk East constituency.
Minister Tom Arthur. Minister, can I just check that your card is in the system?
An auspicious start. Presiding Officer, I am saddened to hear about the challenges facing Kinneil Museum, located in Kinneil Estate, which has links with Mary Queen of Scots and the engineer James Watt. I also recognise the challenges faced by culture and heritage organisations across Scotland, which is why we are continuing to support the sector through over £4.2 million of funding in the draft 2025-26 budget to Museums Galleries Scotland, as well as allocating over £74 million to Historic Environment Scotland. Ultimately, it is for locally elected representatives to make decisions on how best to deliver services in their local communities, which includes the funding of local authority museums.
Thompson.
I thank the Minister for that answer. And as he notes, this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Kinneil Museum is currently proposed for closure by Falkirk Council. But the benefits from the efforts of the volunteers of Friends of Kinneil are keen to find a solution to the museum's closure later this year. However, given the complexities of community asset transfer for heritage sites of this nature, securing the museum's future will probably require a partnership approach. So, will the Minister join with me in supporting efforts to bring together both the national and the local stakeholders to explore the options for safeguarding Kinneil Museum's future?
Minister.
I commend the efforts of the Friends of Kinneil in trying to secure the future of Kinneil Museum, an important part of Falkirk and Scotland's heritage. I understand that Museums Galleries Scotland have been in discussion with Falkirk Council on the future of the museum. And I urge Falkirk Council to continue these discussions with Museums Galleries Scotland and with key stakeholders to explore if there are any ways to secure the future of Kinneil Museum.
Thank you. Question number 2, Claire Haughey.
To ask the Scottish Government how it plans to support South Lanarkshire Council as part of the local government settlement for 2025-26.
Cabinet Secretary Shona Robertson.
If the budget is supported by Parliament, South Lanarkshire Council will receive £805.8 million to fund local services in 2025-26. That's an extra £63.2 million to support vital day-to-day services, or an additional 8.5% compared to the 2024-25 budget.
Claire Haughey.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. This year alone, South Lanarkshire Council are having to pay back over £40 million due to Labour's disastrous PFI contracts. Those funds which are hiking up the profits of the private sector, when instead they should be going towards local priorities. And despite additional Scottish Government funding, I'm concerned about the impact of these debt repayments when the Labour administration at the Council, who are cutting free school transport provision and divesting interest in community halls, set their budget for next year. Can the Cabinet Secretary assure me that this SNP government or future SNP governments will never follow in Labour's PFI footsteps, which has left a damaging legacy across all of our local authorities?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I can certainly give Claire Haughey that assurance, and Claire Haughey is absolutely right that we'll be paying the price for the Labour and indeed Tory flawed PFI PPP deals for some years to come. And I can assure Claire Haughey and Parliament more generally that this SNP government will continue to ensure that all forms of procurement for sites and services provide the best value for money for the taxpayer and realise benefits for our communities.
Thank you. Question number 3, Kenneth Gibson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how much it anticipates will be paid in this financial year in PFI and PPP unitary charge payments across the public sector.
Cabinet Secretary.
The latest published data shows that the total estimated PFI PPP unitary charge payments to be paid across the public sector in Scotland in 2024-25 are £1.12 billion.
Kenneth Gibson.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. In office here at Holyrood, Labour built a debt mountain so vast that 18 years later, public-private partnership payments are still rising, will peak at an eye-watering £1.25 billion next financial year. North Ayrshire Council must pay over £16 million next year for 4 secondary schools built nearly 2 decades ago, and by the time the contract's paid off in 2038, it will have paid £440.1 million for schools built for £83 million. Owning the schools will cost even more. Can the Cabinet Secretary say what impact Labour's disastrous PPP obsession continues to have on our public finances?
Cabinet Secretary.
Kenny Gibson is quite right to highlight this important issue and its impact on local services. This SNP government has always made clear that the PFI approach used by Labour has not delivered best value for the taxpayer, and that's why we brought it to an end and introduced more affordable schemes to reduce the drain on the public purse and to stop the excessive profits. That is something this SNP government will continue to do. And as Kenny Gibson made very clear, we are, of course, still paying for the legacy of those mistakes, as I set out in my first answer.
Pre-Coy.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Regardless of the perceived flaws of past PFI models, does the Minister concede that our constituents are broadly agnostic on how major infrastructure projects are funded and delivered? In short, they just want urgent progress on major projects, including the upgrading of the roads, the A1 and the A75 in my South Scotland region. Will the Minister therefore set aside dogma and fully explore new and alternate models to turbocharge Scotland's flagging infrastructure procurement programme, including an appraisal of the infrastructure investment partnership, as recently recommended by the Future Governance Forum?
Cabinet Secretary.
I think all of our constituents care about value for money and value for the public purse. I think all of our constituents would be very concerned about the excessive profits of previous PFI deals that were poorly constructed and were not good value for the public purse. And I find it very strange that Tories, who quite often talk about value for money and criticise the spending priorities of this government, seem quite so easy with the excessive PFI profits when it suits, and do not seem to share the concerns that I think the public would share alongside ourselves. As I said in my answer to Kenny Gibson, we brought those excessive profits and poor PFI deals to an end, and we introduced more affordable schemes so that we can utilise resources in the best way in order to invest in our infrastructure. We can do that while also ensuring value for the public purse, unlike it seems the Tories want to do.
Question number 4, Ben Macpherson.
To ask the Scottish Government how it is supporting and investing in youth work.
Minister Graham Day.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government is committed to supporting youth work and continues to fund it in a variety of ways. The block grant funding provided to local authorities affords them significant autonomy in allocating resources for youth work to meet the specific needs of young people in their local areas. The Scottish Government, across portfolio, also directly funds a range of youth work initiatives, projects and programmes. These initiatives aim to support diverse youth work models, promote partnership working and enhance the quality of youth work, supporting the best possible outcomes for the young people of Scotland.
Macpherson.
I thank the Minister very much for that answer. We know that youth work in all its various forms can be preventative investment and reduces spending in the long term, like the work of the Citadel, Spartans and others in my constituency. With recognition of all of the good work that the Scottish Government is funding and with appreciation for the pressures on the public finances, can the Minister say more about how the Scottish Government is working across portfolios and with other organisations to consider additional support for youth work as part of the response to the recent Youth Violence Summit, particularly in areas like Edinburgh, where unfortunately youth violence perpetrated by a very small minority has become more prevalent recently?
Minister. Officer, youth work is also highly valued by the Scottish Government, and I agree that working in collaboration helps to achieve positive outcomes for young people. As I mentioned in my initial answer, the Scottish Government continues to fund a range of projects and programmes directly supporting youth work, in addition to the local government block grant. Included within that is the £20 million for our Cashback for Communities Fund for Phase 6, which has supported 29 partnership organisations. I should say to Ben McPherson, so far the spend in the Edinburgh Local Authority area in Phase 6 is circa £700,000. But on the subject of the summit on youth violence that Ben McPherson referenced, we're considering what more can be done to prevent and reduce harm from violence. A report on the key themes that were raised is being produced, and a further cross-party discussion is, I believe, intended.
Thank you. Question number 5, Finlay Carson.
To ask the Scottish Government what plans it has to improve road safety on key routes.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
This year, as part of our £1.1 billion investment in maintaining and improving Scotland's road network, the Scottish Government are investing a record £36 million on road safety initiatives across key routes. This includes £7.5 million investment in the safety camera programme to ensure the continued deployment of safety cameras across Scotland, including on the A75 and the A77. To maximise the impact of this technology, an annual site prioritisation exercise is undertaken each year. As part of the process, consideration is being given to a change in the enforcement strategy on the A75. And in addition to these considerations, a range of engineering improvements are programmed on key routes in the south west of Scotland. This includes the signalisation of the Cuckoo Bridge roundabout on the A75 and the A77 Dinholm Road Junction.
Finlay Carson.
Thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response. Presiding Officer, nobody in the village of Crocketford will ever forget the carnage caused by a horrid accident involving 2 speeding HGVs in November 22. The communities of both Crocketford and Springholm face the dangers of cars and HGVs speeding only feet from their doors. While work is due to begin in March on speed management plans in Crocketford, something I've been pressing long and hard for, this is simply a sticking plaster. During his visit last December, the First Minister agreed that Transport Scotland will consider the case for overhead average speed cameras along the length of the A75 and within these vulnerable villages. Can I ask the Cabinet Secretary for an update on when we can expect to hear these findings, given that the safety cameras are ineffective in addressing the problem we have in the A75?
Cabinet Secretary.
So, work is underway, as I answered in my previous answer, to consider the possibility of deploying average speed cameras on the A75. The outcome of this process will be identified through the conclusions flowing from the annual safety camera site prioritisation exercise. It is underway, and Police Scotland's West Safety Camera Unit are considering a change to the enforcement strategy currently. When we have those results from Police Scotland, we're more than happy to relay them to the member, as the First Minister communicated in his visit in December.
Thank you. Question number 6, Faisal Chowdhury.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government regarding any implications for its provision of funding for humanitarian aid in Gaza, whether it will provide an update on what discussion it has had with the UK Government regarding recent developments in Gaza.
Minister Tom Arthur.
To date, the Scottish Government has committed £1 million for the crisis in Gaza and the wider Middle East. This money has provided food, water, medical assistance and shelter to displaced people across the region. As the political and humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to develop, Scottish Government officials will maintain regular contact with their counterparts in the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. With a ceasefire now in place, we urge all parties to facilitate a surge in the delivery of humanitarian aid in order to alleviate the unimaginable suffering that has been endured over the past 15 months.
Faisal Chowdhury.
I thank the Minister for the answer. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and the returning of hostage should be welcome, but will not undo the suffering inflicted upon the people of Gaza or actions which Amnesty said broke the Genocide Convention. Does the Minister agree this ceasefire is not the end of this conflict and diplomatic pressure is needed on all parties to deliver a free Palestine and regional peace, particularly following recent violence in the West Bank? And will the Scottish Government consider actions to prevent public money going to organisations which have profited from this war?
Minister.
Well, I thank Mr Chowdhury for his question. I agree with him entirely on the need to urge all parties to abide by the terms of the ceasefire and to ensure that we can maximise the support and humanitarian aid, both in terms of infrastructure, but also in recognising this is a severely traumatised population and we need long-term sustained investment to support the people of Gaza, and that is something that the Scottish Government is committed to. With regards to the specific points on procurement, the member will recognise that we do operate under a suite of domestic and international procurement law and regulations with which we have to abide. But I hope the member would recognise from the commitments that the Scottish Government, indeed what the Scottish Government has delivered to date, we are very much of the same position and same view on this matter.
Brief supplementary, Emma Roddick.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I recently met with Highland Palestine, a group which does incredible work raising awareness and showing solidarity with the people of Palestine from the Highlands. And whilst the news that a ceasefire agreement has been reached is extremely welcome, the humanitarian situation on the ground in Palestine remains desperate. Can I therefore ask the Minister what further discussions the Government has had with the UK Government around allowing Palestinians who have lost homes and loved ones to resettle and find sanctuary in Scotland?
Minister.
Scotland has a long history of welcoming people who are fleeing war and persecution. The Minister for Equalities wrote to the UK Government in November to call again for a bespoke family reunion scheme to be established to enable people in Gaza to seek sanctuary with family members in the UK. The Home Office replied on 7 January to say that no changes to existing visa schemes and immigration routes were planned. We are extremely disappointed by this reply and continue to urge the UK Government to provide support for Palestinian families in their time of extreme suffering.
Thank you. Question number 7, Evelyn Tweed.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how it is supporting community efforts to preserve built heritage, ancient monuments and archaeological sites.
Minister Tom Arthur.
The Scottish Government delivers support for the historic environment through our sponsorship of Historic Environment Scotland, the lead public body responsible for preserving, maintaining and promoting the historic environment. As part of the £13.5 million that HES delivers in annual grants, Historic Environment Scotland has been able to support numerous projects, such as funding volunteers to uncover, record and recover the balance of the bedrock at Balfron, and a volunteer training programme to capacity build local members and volunteers of the Bannockburn House Trust in basic restoration and traditional building methods.
Evelyn Tweed.
I thank the Minister for that answer. BBC's Digging for Britain recently featured volunteers from the rescuers of Old Kilmadock and archaeologist Dr Murray Cook following the discovery and preservation of a Pictish stone near Doon. Will the Minister join me in congratulating them on their work and advise what steps are being taken to encourage more volunteers to work in this area?
Minister.
Good. I am pleased to congratulate the volunteers of Rook on their important discovery. For Scotland's historic environment, volunteers are essential. The Make Your Mark National Volunteer Campaign was an outcome of Scotland's first strategy for the historic environment, and volunteering has remained a key priority in Our Past, Our Future, the revised strategy, to empower resilient and inclusive communities and places. Historic Environment Scotland is an Investing in Volunteers accredited organisation. We aim to increase the number and diversity of heritage volunteers in Scotland, whilst promoting volunteering opportunities, connecting coordinators nationwide, sharing inclusive practice and evidencing impacts to lobby for funding. Make Your Mark also plays an important role in contributing to the wider reach of volunteering in Scotland through the lens of the Scottish Government's commitment to volunteering in Scotland's Volunteering Action Plan.
Concise question 8, Miles Briggs.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its position is on whether the remit of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry remains appropriate.
To First Minister.
Well, the remit of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry was established following extensive consultation with survivors. The inquiry, which has now been operating for 9 years, is independent, and the chair, Lady Smith, is responsible for deciding what is examined by the inquiry to fulfil its remit, and I believe the remit remains appropriate.
Miles Briggs.
I thank the Deputy First Minister for that answer. She will know that people who have gone to this inquiry are concerned that this has seen that many victims have felt that their voice has not been heard, that non-disclosure agreements by public bodies and often are stopping truths coming out in this inquiry, and it's only looking at historic abuse. Can I therefore ask, one of the campaigners have put forward the idea of establishing an independent national whistleblower officer for education and children's services. Is that something the Cabinet will consider, And will she meet with me and campaigners to discuss this issue further?
Deputy First Minister.
Can I make the important point that it's very much to respond to survivors' requests that we initially established the remit as it was, and I continue to engage with survivors independently of the inquiry. My view would be that changing the remit at this late stage of the inquiry would mean it takes significantly longer to reach and publish its conclusions, and that risks failing to respond to survivors of in-care abuse and delays the opportunity to address the recommendations that the inquiry might make. I am very happy to engage with the member on these matters.